Stand for the pledge, please. It's in front of me. Here we go. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. This is Monday, April 15th. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, come up to this podium with the microphone, give us your name and address. Tell us what's on your mind. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Cedar.
Here.
Councilmember Gottler.
Here.
Councilmember Koufa.
Here.
Councilmember Laporte.
Here.
Councilmember Paul.
Here.
Councilmember Bowles.
Here.
Councilmember Watt.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Under number 4, consent agenda, A, City Council minutes of April 1st, 2024, regular meeting, recommendation approve. B is the Housing Commission minutes of February 20th, 2024, regular meeting, recommendation received. C is the Cemetery Board of Trustees minutes of March 5th, 2024, meeting, recommendation received, and the Golf Commission minutes of March 12th, 2024, meeting, recommendation received.
Motion to approve A through D is presented. Support.
Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On to number 5. Arbor Day proclamation I'm going to read for you. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. Whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of businesses, areas, and beautify our community, and are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the City of St. Clair has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 25 years and desires to continue its tree planting ways. Therefore, I, Bill Cedar Jr., by the authority vested in me as the Mayor of the City of St. Clair, do hereby proclaim April 26th, 2024 as Arbor Day in the City of St. Clair. And I urge all citizens to support the efforts to care for trees and woodlands and to support our community forestry programs. Further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. In witness here whereof, I do hereby set my hand and cause the corporate seal of the City of St. Clair to be affixed hereto to this 15th day of April, 2024. Arbor Day. All right, now on to the really fun stuff. Presentation is the annual audit. Jordan's here from Manor Costerson. It's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jordan Smith from Manor Costerson. Thank you for having me once again. I'm going to go through some slides. Hopefully you can see one of the two screens and stuff, and just give a quick overview of the audit or the financial situation of the city as of September 30, 2023. So it is a little over 6 months ago, but that is the city's fiscal year end. So before I start go any further, I need to really thank Annette, Quentin, and the city staff. Without them, we can't do our job. And last year went well, but there was some turnover and stuff in the city. This year went extremely well in my view. I don't know if that was their view, but there were some new challenges, single audit and compliance audit. Single audit, which is a compliance audit this year. And I felt like things went very, very well overall. So thank you very much. There we go. So I'm going to highlight independent auditors report, which is the purpose of the audit. Our job is not to give an opinion on internal controls or to find fraud or anything like that. Our job is to give an opinion on the numbers. So in our opinion on the financial statements, not the compliance audit. I'll talk about the compliance audit in a couple minutes. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the City of St. Clair's opinion units as of September 30, 2023. And then the opinion units we're giving opinion on are all listed down there. I'm not going to read them all for you, but they're all there. We gave an unmodified opinion, which is the best possible opinion you can get. Other options we could give is a qualified opinion, adverse, or we could disclaim an opinion, but that doesn't happen very often and did not happen for the city. Management's responsibility is the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. Our objective as the auditors is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement. And the issue in our report that includes our opinion. So, as I already mentioned, it's not to detect fraud, not to give an opinion on internal controls. It is to state, basically, what I like telling people, can the information be relied upon? I apologize for going back and forth. So, snapshot of numbers as of September 30, 2023. The general fund's total fund balance was about a little over $7.8 million. There's 5 possible classifications: non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, unassigned. The city had some different things there, but one of the things we like looking at is the unassigned fund balance. That's the bottom center box over your expenditures and other financing uses. So the unassigned fund balance of that total 7.8, the unassigned was about $6.2 million. Expenditures for the year were about just under 3.7, and then other financing uses, which is basically transfers out what the general fund supplemented or used to support other funds of the city. That was 1.35 million. So that comes out to 124%. In 2022 is 105%. So it actually went up year over year. The city's in a better financial position. One of the things, GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, recommends a minimum of 17%. You're at 124%, which is a very positive situation. Though they throw on a huge contingency on there, or disclaimer. That percentage of 17 recommendation or 2 months, it all depends on your future plans. What significant things do you have going on? When do you collect revenue? What's part of your capital improvement plan that's going to need? Are you going to need a new building? Are you going to need a police car? Are you going to need a new dump truck or a fire truck? Or what are you going to need? Those things can obviously get costly. So that 17% is as of 9/30/2023, and it can be completely different today. But a year before, and 9/30/2022 is 105%. So year over year, it's getting better. The city's in a sound financial condition.
Jordan, before you leave that page.
Yep. You're good.
Every year I do this, don't I? Okay, so is it accurate for me to say this? The general fund total fund balance of 7.8 is not true liquid cash. That includes investments.
That includes investments, that includes receivables, things the state owes you that you haven't yet received. That also includes payables and accrued wages, things that as of 9/30 the city owed and had not yet paid out.
So if the true, if the more accurate number for me to say true cash liquidity might be just south of 3 million.
Yeah.
But that has to be, you have to be careful with that because, tell me if I'm wrong, but because that number is here today, but if tomorrow a bill comes in from Fishbeck for $300,000, that number changes like that.
Agreed.
If a water main breaks and it's a $500,000 repair, that number changes like that.
So absolutely. The receivables that are there and those payables that the city owes as of 9/30/2023 are items that would be paid or received, expected to be received within 60 days. So that's what's considered a current financial economic resource. But yes, it can change tomorrow. There could be a water main break, or there could be something else that general fund has to pay for that could change.
Thank you.
Revenues in the general fund for the year were, as you can see there, a little over $6 million. That's actually an increase of about $1.1 million over 2022. But The significant reasons for that increase include interest revenue turned around by 307%. 2022 is very, very poor for investments. So the interest revenue investment earnings were about $440,000 higher than 2022. So I'm not saying you received 440, I'm just saying that increased by that year over year. Contribution of about $350,000 from the Community Foundation for Clinton Avenue Pathways during 2023. State funding increased about $200,000, a little over. State shared revenue and local community stabilization authority increased about $200,000, and then property tax values went up basically across the state, including the city. So there is a vast majority of that increase in revenues. Expenditures were $3.684 million, and those actually increased about $400,000 over 2022. There's a full year of city superintendent, whereas you've not been without one for a couple months during 2022 for a while. You have a new finance director, accountant, not contracting that out. The other big things were the municipal roof and the historical museum roof, which came out to about $150,000 in total for those two roofs. So those were reasons expenditures increased. That fourth line down says net other financing sources and uses. It nets at about $650,000. There's the sale of land, sale of capital assets during the year of about $700,000. And then there's a transfer out. There was about $1.3 million that was used to support other funds. I mentioned that a few minutes ago, to support other funds, such as streets. About $500,000 went towards supporting street work and different items there. The golf fund received about $75,000. Pension fund about $650,000. Water fund is another example, got about $100,000. So that's just an example of where the general fund is supplementing or supporting other activities of the city. And then at the bottom there, you can see net change in fund balance. Overall, fund balance increased about $1.7 million, which is why that percentage went from 105%, your fund balance over your expenditures on the financing uses, to 124%. It's partly due to that.
Does that net change include the $700 from the sale of land?
It does. I'm going to show a few graphs here. First graph, 19's on the left, pretty equal all the way across. The blue bar is your revenue or other financing sources, inflows of resources. The red is your expenditures and other financing uses of the general fund, so funds going out. And then the net, your fund balance, where your reserves are, your equity, if you want to call it, the fund balance in governmental terms, that's the green bar. So obviously you want the green to be as high as possible, and you want blue to be higher than red. So 2023 was a very positive situation there based on that, but you can see how things were a little different. You took a small loss in 19, a loss in 20, 21 and 22, 23 have been better. Talking revenue, can kind of, it is hard to read, I apologize, but so the blue there, that's the amount of taxes. This is just a different representation of revenue. So on the left is 2023 revenue. The big blue is about almost half or more in 2022, but in 2023 it was about 47%, which is down from 61% in 2022. I'll explain why, and it all just is shifts in percentages, as you understand. Intergovernmental, that'd be your state funding, any federal funding coming through the general fund, stuff like that, decreased from 26 to 21%. And then your other, which is kind of, I don't want to say it's a hodgepodge of everything, but everything else that didn't fit neatly in another category. And that increased from 7% to 27%. The reason those percentages change is entirely because the sale of land for $700,000 is with the other, and then also the contribution of $350,000 for the Clinton Avenue pathways. That's in the other as well. So that's what caused all the percentages to change year over year. Similarly, this is expenditures. So the general government is the blue on the top there, and that went from 24% in 2022 down to 21%. Public safety went from 32% of the total general fund expenditures and other financing uses, so how you're supporting other funds, down to 27%. Public Works increased a percentage from 7 to 8. So I should probably say the colors, but Public Safety is the red on the right. Public Works is the light blue, kind of on the left there. And the biggest, where am my notes? There you go. Transfers out, which is what I was mentioning earlier. The general fund supplementing or supporting other funds. That was the largest shift here too. It increased from 21% up to 27%. Going back to that fund balance as a percentage of expenditures and other financing uses, this is a 5-year trend, and you can see it has a very positive trend here going upward. So the low there is 46% in 2019, and the high is 2023 with 124%. I'm going to talk about now the proprietary funds for a few minutes. This would be your sewer, your water, your harbor fund. Those are major funds, so I'm not going to talk about golf, which is also proprietary or business type like, but let me talk about those. So snapshot again, this is as of September 30, 2023. Sewer fund had an unrestricted net position of just under $600,000. So as a percentage of your operating expenses less depreciation, it's about 67% negative. Water fund had an deficit unrestricted net position of $934,000, which is negative 92% on the same basis. And the harbor fund, I don't know why there's parentheses, I apologize, but that's actually positive 1.15 million. So I apologize for those parentheses there, which is why there's a positive percentage down at the bottom of 169%. You can see the percentages of unrestricted compared to operating expenses. And really, you can't set a benchmark. So I mentioned the general fund. The GFOA mentions the 2 months operating expenses are 17%, give or take your future plans, which your plans can really change that quickly. There's a different way we have to calculate these because they're full accrual. This more like a for-profit or a nonprofit, includes your capital assets, your buildings, all your assets, things like that. So we calculate something I'll talk about here in a minute, but we try to take into account somewhat the age of your utilities. What's the state of disrepair? When will they need to be repaired? And how much debt does it carry? When do you need to pay that debt back? Things like that. So focusing on the sewer fund. Unrestricted is a negative, as I mentioned a second ago. So you don't see any green up there because the unrestricted is a negative. The restricted fund balance is that red. So that's being restricted by your debt service, about $390,000 all 5 years there. That's 19 through on the right, or on the left, I apologize, through 2023 on the right. And then the blue is your net investment in capital assets. So in the sewer, this would be your sewer lines, all that stuff, your sewer building, things like that, less any debt you have on that. So you can see there, you want some green in there, and right now you're at a negative. There's no green showing.
Jordan, I have a question about the sewer fund.
Go for it.
Does any of that debt relate to unfunded liabilities like pensions?
No, that's not related to the investment in capital assets, so it does not get included there.
Okay.
So this is our calculation, and I'm going to show this again for water and harbor, which I did last year as well, but a recommended minimum for the sewer fund. So your operating expenses for 2023, we had to take some kind of time frame, so that's less depreciation, times 3/12. So just under 900,000 times 3/12. The bottom right-hand square comes out to it's about $223,000. Your debt service payments next year, so this would be fiscal year 2024, is debt service payments of about $102,000. That's principal and interest. I mentioned we had to estimate capital expenditures, so we just said 10% of your overall what you have the value of your capital assets. Your historical accounting value, 10% is about $884,000. So our recommendation is that you should have a minimum in the sewer fund of that unrestricted, that blue line that we did not see, of about $1.2 million. You're currently at a negative $600,000. I know, talking to Quentin, there's a lot of things the city's working on to fix that and get it where it is, and it's already started. This is already a positive compared to the prior year. So let me show you the prior year here. You can see, again, the unrestricted net position is that blue line, which is a negative. And back in 2019, it was smaller. It got bigger and bigger, and then this year it did decrease. So you really want the blue to be above the line, and it's slowly getting there year over year there. Talking about the water fund. As I mentioned, this is in a deficit about $934,000. So there is no restricted cash or anything, so that's why there's no red line and there's no green line you can see. So there's no equity, reserves, net position, governmental terminology. Similarly, in the water fund, operating expenses less depreciation is about a little over $1 million times 3/12, 3 of 12 months. Debt service payments. So you received a state/federal loan, DWSRF loan. Next year, you're going to owe $1,000 on that. But that's all interest. There's no principal on that. As you draw down more and as the amortization schedule becomes more relevant in 2 or 3 years, you'll start having to pay principal on that too. But this is just a 12-month future debt service payments. Estimated capital, repair, maintenance on those capitals, whatever you need to do, 10%, about $305,000. You add that up, you get to about $560. So our recommended minimum would be $560, and you're at a negative about $934,000. So this is water fund, similar to sewer fund. You can see how the 2023 is better than 2022 as you've added to fund balance and keep increasing that, and you can see the wave over the past 5 years. Harbor fund, in the harbor fund, you can see the green line. So that's positive. That's what you have and is available to finance operations. Obviously, you have cash coming in to finance those operations, but from an accounting standpoint at 9/30/2023, that would be what you have to finance operations. The blue line is or the blue bars are what you have in capital assets. Again, as it'll decrease until you repair or replace everything, not repair, but the state of disrepair decreases that line until it gets fully replaced. Harbor fund, I'm not going to go through the whole calculation, but bottom right-hand corner, recommend minimum of about $472,000. The actual is about 1.1. So that's a very, very healthy situation for the harbor fund. And again, the unrestricted net position, you can see the blues above zero, stuff like that. So just another viewpoint. The other thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to skip forward about 3 slides. So I mentioned earlier that the city had a single audit, a federal compliance audit. As part of that audit, we have to audit any federal dollars expended by the city during the fiscal year. So for the year, the DWSRF was a loan, but there was also a grant portion to that. That grant portion was entirely federally funded. So it was about $929,000 that got added to the water fund. And then the loan is coming on top of that, as I mentioned earlier, and stuff, to do repair and replace items needed for the city. This here, I know it's small. This is a summary of summary of auditor results. So this is required by the federal government in accordance with uniform guidance, which is the single audit. Schedule of findings and question costs. The material weakness up there is a yes, and then we also found some non-compliance with state. Material weakness is something we've had in the past. It's nothing new. We had to propose material journal entries for pension and OPEB, just running those calculations, talking with Quentin and Lynette about it, and I think Annette, I worked with her a little bit on those too. But we had to recommend numbers that we consider material, significant, where the financial statements would be materially misstated if we didn't propose those. So we did, the city agreed, and they were posted. That's the material journal or material weakness. And then the compliance with the state was an unfavorable budget variances. Basically, the city tries really hard to adopt the budget and meet, but the state says you are not allowed to go over by 1 penny. If you do, we have to report on it. So there was the general fund and the local street fund went over the budget a little bit during the year, so we had to report on it. And then there was also the city, as everything was happening, you had turnover, people were still figuring out the budgets and stuff. Local street fund was, but the final amended budget was a deficit. And I've talked to Quentin multiple times, and as far as I can tell, it'll probably never happen again while he's here. So, any questions?
Yeah.
I know I go fast. I apologize.
Talk me or walk me through why I shouldn't be nervous about the water and sewer funds.
Say that again, please. I apologize.
Tell me why I shouldn't be nervous about the water sewer funds.
According to my discussions with Quentin, the city's on the right track. They've increased rates. They're planning for the future, things like that. The deficit should make you nervous to an extent because you do not want to ever be in a deficit. From the state's standpoint, it's an unrestricted net position deficit, so we have to actually run a calculation to determine if the state considers it a deficit or not. It's based on your current receivables, your current payables, what you have, that deficit number, things like that. The state, while they don't want to see you in a deficit at all, they consider it I'll call it correctable deficit, but it is still a deficit that I would argue you need to be worried about or plan for. So I did not report on it in my findings or anything because according to the state's calculation, I don't have to. I don't know if that answers any of your question.
Yeah.
And if you did this, and I missed it, what was the largest contributing factor on why we are where we are?
I did not do a study going back. Quinn may or may not be able to answer. I would argue probably, from what I've heard the past couple of years, maybe not the past 2 or 3 years, but 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, not increasing rates.
Lack of funding.
Lack of funding,
Right.
but water sewer fund, harbor fund. They're designed to, your user charges are supposed to meet your expenditures and be above that to meet future capital costs. Replace of the plant, replace of the sewer lines, replace of vehicles you need to do maintenance on those. So that's where you should be setting your rates. I'm not going to say I'm an expert in all this rate study stuff, so don't get me wrong there. But that's where the rates should be set. Based on my understanding is that wasn't being done, and I'm saying 20 years ago and stuff. And so I believe now, based on discussions, it is. It's being looked at very closely and it is being adjusted, but that's where you are. And so then you have to get out of that and then grow that from there.
That's accurate. So part of what we learned from the study with municipal analytics is saying that a decade or so previously, this debt was starting to tally up. Expenses increased, but we didn't necessarily raise rates. If we did, it was very incremental. And so what happens is we're gaining a deficit. We're transferring money from the general fund into the water fund to make it solvent. And then you see on the chart, it was like 3 or 4 slides ago, you start seeing in about 2021, the dip starts to go the other direction. And that's when we're right about,
I don't know which one you want.
okay, well, maybe one more back.
I think.
Was it 16 or 17? 16 or 17.
17.
All right, try that one. 17. So you start seeing that fund in 2020 started to go in the other direction, started to increase, 21, increased again, 22, increased a lot. At that time, that is when the study is going to be starting to be talked about. And so let's start increasing rates. And so that rate was increased, and I believe it was October, you have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it was like October of 22, I think was the first rate increase. And so you had a whole year of increasing rates, and in 23, it's not much, but it's definitely better than 22 because we're going in the right direction. And so I think it's one of those liabilities that wasn't monitored and maintained over the long run. The deficit caught up, and now because we've adjusted our rates, we're moving in that other direction.
I don't want to project any past council's thought process. I don't want to do any of that. However, if you were to go back, I'm going to say 10 years, 20 years, it's often where the rate stays the same. We've been seeing since about 2018, people are increasing rates more and more because they had stayed the same for 10 or 20 years. Talking to various clients I have, not just the city. They were in a very, very positive situation after the 90s, let's just say. And then as you didn't increase rates, but cost of things increased. That's a projection or a guess. I'm not stating fact there.
Yeah, but I've seen the same thing, Jordan. I've seen the same thing in, like, when you look at financial reports and, like, in the fallout of 2008. It wasn't even until like 2012 and 13 where people even considered raising a rate because they were looking out for their community, saying, hey, listen, we really can't, ask them to pay more, right? Property values were plummeted, tax revenues were plummeting, and then nobody touched the water and sewer rates. They finally got it back into their nature of doing things, 2018, 2019. It just so happens to be in 2022, we're making a decision to go full bore ahead with upgrading a water treatment plant. And all of the engineering, all the design work, all the costs that are associated with that. And now we have a new study that says, okay, based on these projections and these investments we just made, we should start seeing positive action, which we do in 2023. We're seeing positive action. The rates increased. Now we're trying to get back to that zero line.
Projected at the current rate, when are we getting back to zero?
Quite honestly, that's really impossible. It's impossible because the projection on the rate was based on X amount of home builds, X amount of water usage, right? X amount of like replacement of.
So is it like 5 years? Is it 3 years? I mean, is it 20?
I think that we'll see greater. I'm speculating.
Yeah.
Okay. But
I just want to know an approximate time horizon.
Yeah, I mean, give us a 5-year lookout, and you're looking at 2028, and you're saying, okay, well, now we've completely implemented this new water treatment expansion. We will know exactly what the build out as far as housing stock goes. We'll see what we actually get from industrial usage on water, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should see different rates. We have a brand new a fee schedule that we just introduced too. That, remember, double the rate for high water usage. That is we haven't seen any of that yet.
Right. At a poor and small sampling, we're looking at 10 years as is, but inflation, cost, other things might drive that. How aggressive are we going to get?
Yeah.
We restructured depreciation, how we're looking at it, so now we have a more accurate picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there maybe a silver lining that on the other side of the, upon completion of the massive projects coming regarding the water and sewer, is it naive to say that costs may be better because we will have less maintenance and a more efficient system?
There'll definitely be more efficiency, and we'll start seeing breaks in other areas, like electricity for one. Right? It's a sieve because we don't have efficient equipment in there. Right? We're getting new HVAC system, we're getting new boiler systems, we're getting a new generator, right? We're getting new pumps, right, that are more efficient. So we should start seeing those cost savings. I think the real mover in this, is going to ultimately be usage. And if we meet the expectations of the rate study, we will continually see year after year improvement. Mm-hmm. That's how the numbers should play out.
When people ask me that sort of question, I usually tell them it's a moving target. And that's the hard part because there's a lot of assumptions. You're going to have so many hookups. You're going to have so much usage. You're going to have yada, 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 whatever you want. So it's a moving target. So it's really hard to say, as Quentin said. But the point, you have new equipment, everything should be more efficient, but that also ages over time. So not only do you need to get this up and running and plan for now, you also need a plan for 20, 30 years from now when it might have to be replaced again. And so it's a continuous capital improvement plan looking towards the future and what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the story?
Sorry, that's all I have.
Just the beginning.
Is there any other questions I can try to answer? Did I answer your question?
Yes. And this year I understood it.
Okay.
Any other questions for Jordan? Okay, Jordan, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.
We have nothing under number 7. We'll go to 8. Course administration, Mr. Bishop, anything?
Sure, I have a few things this evening I would like to share. I'm going to talk about the good stuff that doesn't involve money at this point, or spending any other money. Jordan, thank you very much for your report. No, I will just make a comment before we get started with some of these announcements. There are plans in place. I would say that we'd have a much different story if we just looked at each other and said we don't know what we're doing to attack those types of issues, but we do have a plan. We do have a study in front of us, and we're enacting those plans and executing on those action items. So there's nothing that's been recommended either through municipal analytics or through our auditors that we haven't sat down, discussed, and then adjusted. So I'm having conversations with department heads. We're talking about that transfer number very seriously. We're talking about the cost of wages for everybody from summer help, temporary help, and we're looking at classifications of what is seasonal, what is temporary. So we're really going on deep dives because that is where the savings are going to be. The savings are going to be in the details, and we're taking the time necessary to do that. Okay? But the good stuff, let's talk about the good stuff for a second. This was important. I'd like to honor our deputy clerk here at the city. So Ms. Morgan Hustek, she has received and attained her level 1 Michigan PMC certification, and this is through the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks. This just goes to show that with some encouragement from her boss, our clerk, right? And also just her attitude about professional development and continuous improvement and going after things that matter in our world, in our industry. Morgan accomplished something that is worth noting. And so as of now, through the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks, she has received her level 1 Michigan PMC certification. So I wanted to make sure that was recognized. Met with the city treasurer last week, and we are moving through and updating our investment policy. It's a policy that's been in place for some time, but we are looking, going at a deeper level, and we're looking at the ins and outs of investment policies and creating things like, when is the best time to invest? When is the best time to pull out monies? What do we invest in? What don't we invest in? I'm asking all kinds of questions, and Ms. Gilroy has been on the spot with answers and any information that we're gathering for how to create an updated investment policy to present to the board, and I anticipate doing that the first or second meeting in May. I think it'll be airtight, and I think moving into the new era of investments, I think that we'll be ready for it. Ours is just a little outdated. It's been quite a few years since we looked at it. Want to make mention that Aztec Asphalt, they are the construction crew that is going to be doing work on 7th and 8th Street, as well as like Glendale. And they are going to be working beginning the week of May 1st. They're going to start, okay? They're going to start at the north end and work their way down. We have been in contact with commercial businesses on Fred Moore Highway, specifically nonprofits, that that type of lane closure would affect their business. We've been in contact with them, and we have made a plan, and we're making sure that no traffic will be shut off and that pedestrians and/or traffic can get to those businesses so it doesn't interfere with them or minimally interferes with them. There'll be some type of interference, but nothing of major consequence. Okay. Want to also mention that tomorrow, if you walk around the city, you will more than likely see a company working on the city clock. They'll have scaffolding up. So this has been the second and third time that they looked at it, and we have finally decided that we are taking the face completely off. It's not a repair, it's a replacement. So we will replace the face, and that work is going to be performed starting tomorrow, and that clock should be up and running. And I say that with the most confidence that clock will be absolutely up and running for the summer, okay? Last but not least, I want to make mention that our collective efforts, and I appreciate the support and continued support for the Cox Road Sidewalk Project. We were awarded through SEMCOG and the TAP grant for $246,000 of grant money to continue on with that project. And so the phase now that we're on is to reestablish the commitments that were made to us for paying for any types of differences. We also have a couple checklists that we need from SEMCOG to check off. That has everything to do with like what does the actual not the path, but the crosswalks look like, right? Making sure, are they lit properly? Does DTE been notified? Is there proper indication of where the crosswalks start and stop? And then the engineering fund's going to begin. And we'll start seeing flags up and, about and around. I will mention that the SEMCOG came back and they had said, if not for the cooperation between the school district and the township, if not for that, we wouldn't have scored as high as we would on our points. So hats off to the collaboration and the multiple jurisdictions coming together to try to find something collectively that we can all, benefit from. So hats off to that, and I'll have more updates as we start working towards actually getting that done. Okay? And that is all I have for this evening.
Any questions, Mr. Bishop?
When are they going to continue the work on Clinton Avenue bike path?
Oh, okay, that is a good update. I should have said that. I apologize, I missed that. We met last week. And we came into the conference room and we knocked it out about an hour and a half worth. And they are going to be back on site this Thursday, and they will be on site again on Friday of this week. And they will be making precise measurements on where to cut the concrete. And they're going to be starting here as soon as the asphalt mills are open. They're taking their asphalt from Ace, which is going to be open on the 1st of May or so. So the first or second week of May, there are boots on the ground, and what they're going to start with is correcting the wall, correcting the cement. That is the first thing that they're going to do. Today, I want to say the Comcast. You notice at Ted Street, there's a pole that the thing is that utility had been. The thing is that utility had actually been moved, right? They had left the pole in place for some reason we don't know.
Removed?
It's been removed.
Okay.
Okay. They were actually on there today, so either taking the hookups off, but that pole is actively coming down, and it will be in time for the replacement of the asphalt for that second layer. Okay.
And
There's been a lot of confusion too about the path something is a finished product.
Yeah.
Some people think that's done. That's not the farthest thing from it. Is where they have that was just basically a base course. All the utilities have been identified for what has to happen from where it's at to the end. Notices are going out to all the residents up and down Clinton Avenue, so that they're going to be notified of the work when it's going to start, what they can expect. We are doing door-to-door knocks, especially those who have a retaining wall on their property and those who have really, basically, that bike path right up, coming up close to their house. We're doing door-to-door visits and making sure that they know when the meetings are, and we're informing the public of when they can show up to the meetings. And just for example, that last Friday meeting, it was going to be a rain out, so instead of doing it on site, we did it at City Hall. We went door to door. Mr. Phil, we found him at the door. He came to the meeting. Mr. Frank at 1104 on the other end of the Clinton Avenue. We knocked on his door. They came out and said, "Hey, come on to the meeting." So we're gathering people and making sure that everybody's well informed. Okay, but it will be done. It will be done before the fall.
Great.
Completely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll go to B. Mr. Downey, got anything?
Nothing this evening,
Any
Your Honor.
questions from Mr. Downey? Annette, I think you have something?
Yes, just a couple quick things. To emphasize part of that Arbor Day proclamation, the city has earned their Tree City USA designation for the 25th year in a row. And even with the recent developments that included a lot of tree removals, new plantings, tree maintenance, and a dedicated forestry budget helped us maintain that status. So pretty excited about that. Petitions for elected office are due by 4 p.m. Tuesday, April 23rd. And Be a Tourist in Your Own Town Day, again, is May 18th. For more information on that, visit stclairontheriver.com. Thank you.
You said May 18th?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I just say something? Mayor, council, city administration, public, I just want to say thanks for the overwhelming support for Sergeant Ennis's award ceremony last Friday evening. It was pretty awesome. So it's good for him, good for the city. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief. Go to D, authorities and boards, commissions, anybody have anything?
A couple of things, Your Honor. The Planning Commission has an opening. If anyone's interested, please apply. And the fireworks committees are sending out letters. And if you want to contribute, you can do it at City Hall, take it to the Voyager. Dave Lenarski's on the board, and Dane McCartney is also. So we'd like to do a big bang this year, but we need a little help.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Nothing under number 9. Let's go to new business. Approve recommendation award for Range Yankee Water Main Distribution.
On April 2nd, 2024, bids were received for the project of Range Road and Yankee Road water main. Again, this is just that section that they're putting in before the roundabout, so we don't tear the roundabout up. Okay, all bids were opened. They had all the material that as requested. Fishbeck performed a price tabulation and evaluated the bids. The as-read bid prices were found to have no errors and no corrections were made. The bids are summarized here, and I'll read them off. The low bid was Raymond Excavating Company for $449,902.38. Telto Contracting came in at a bid at $596,549. Murray Underground Systems came in at a bid at $597,944. Superior Contracting Group came in at a bid at $600,395.47. And HMC LLC came in at a bid at $759,952.75. Raymond Excavating was the lowest bidder, and it should be noted the engineer's estimate construction cost was $533,028, meaning that Raymond came in under the estimated engineering price. Just as a recommendation from Fishbeck, Fishbeck has worked with Raymond in the past on successful projects, and they have had successful experiences and positive working relationship. At this time, I would recommend that Raymond Excavating Company be awarded the Range Road and Yankee Road water main project so we can begin construction.
I'll make that motion.
Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Hall,
Yes.
Folds,
Yes.
Watt,
Yes.
Gotler,
Yes.
Hoopa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Cedar.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. B, special event, St. Clair Little League Opening Day Parade, Chief.
Hey, Council, I've received paperwork from the Little League Association for their annual opening day on May 4th, going from the high school to the banquet center at 9 a.m. on the 4th. All the paperwork's in order. I recommend you approve it.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? B, or C, special event permit, St. Clair High School Senior Picnic and Cruise.
And I have all their paperwork for their annual senior cruise for May 19th at 4 p.m. It's a Sunday afternoon, and then they'll end up at a picnic at the high school afterwards.
Motion to approve.
Supported.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? St. Clair Recreation Department Summer Event Schedule.
Yeah, I received her requests, and they're for, you got Palmer Park concerts on June 14th, 21st, and July 19th, car show on July 13th, outdoor movie August 12th, kids fishing June 8th, and the kids bike parade July 16th.
Motion to approve.
Support?
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
11 is claims and accounts, April 4th, 11th, 2024.
Hearing no questions, Your Honor, make a motion to approve as presented.
Support.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 12 is public comment. Anybody have any non-agenda items they'd like to talk about? Go to number 13, Mayor and Council. I have a few things. I do want to reiterate what Chief said about Don Ennis's award last Friday. It was really an amazing kind of an event, and we are just so lucky. #1 policeman, police person, officer in the state, right here in this town. It was very well attended. It was very well done, too. Planning Commission, there's an opening on the Planning Commission. Anybody wants to get on that? Bring up, come to the City Hall and get an app. Fireworks Committee is still taking donations. And I want to call Paul Dingman out. Paul, come on out here. We got to talk about Paul Dingman for a minute, you guys. So,
Yes, Your Honor.
so of course, this is Paul Dingman. He is our Channel 6 guru, and he won an award from the St. Clair County Community Health, and he's the Communicator of the Year Award.
Something like that. It was
Something like that. And
a communicator.
he doesn't like talking in front of people, but I told him he has to come out and say a few words. So here he is.
Well, thank you. It's a nice honor to be recognized by anybody, and especially by a group as big and as strong and as helpful to the community as St. Clair Community Mental Health. I have to take credit for it on today's thing, but it's actually the city of St. Clair the council and the previous administrators who have helped fund Channel 6 and make it a viable product. We have certainly served the community for a long time, and we love serving the community and telling the great stories that we have in the city and in the townships and the school district, and we hope to continue. And that's why I think they recognize me. So thank you.
Well, congratulations. Does anybody else, anything else?
Nice
I guess
job.
I'll just add thanks to Quentin for all the legwork for the grant for the Cox Road bike path. That's sounding great. Looking forward to seeing more. I do have I guess it's been a thought because I see the work that the gardening club does and the beautification committees do, and I wonder if we couldn't do something with that Clinton Avenue bike path that would be a little more beautiful than just grass. You know, just so I got in contact with Sandy Davis and Jan Clark about it, and I think they're interested, and I think that's a path we could follow a little bit to maybe we throw a few bucks at it, and it becomes just a little. Maybe we can enhance what's already there.
We've had those discussions.
Good, yeah. And then the last thing I want to promote is the St. Clair High School musical, which is happening this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the Performing Arts Center. We have 90 kids in the production this year.
What is it this year?
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I thought we were going to get 40 or 50, and 90 came out for it. So it's a big deal.
Well, I like chocolate, man.
Yeah, it's easy to sell kids on candy, right?
What day is that?
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 7 o'clock each night.
I mentioned the fundraiser.
For Gator. Yeah. Good.
Last week we talked about the passing of Jeff Gator Mead, 25 years boat race. They're having a fundraiser at Riverside Bar.
Spaghetti dinner.
Sunday. I think noon till 8 or something like that. So
I think it's 4 to 8. Well, maybe it's.
I thought I saw noon, but you can get there at noon.
They'll take you.
Well, it's noon to 8 now.
I just said it, didn't I? All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Yep.
Support?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, everybody. Be careful. Thanks for coming.